Hello, everybody. Thanks, everyone, for being here to the new educational program by the Association of Foreign Press Correspondents. I am Elena Lentza, and I'm here joined by Bruna Lopes, Innovation Director, and Murillo Albanese, Future Design Leader, both of them at MJV Technology and Innovation. Small introduction about our panelists. Both of them are great examples of how digital transformation can affect all the sectors in the economy. So Bruna Lopes holds an MBA in digital transformation and the future of business, specialization in communication, design, and marketing at the Wilson School of Design in Canada, and a bachelor's in industrial design. She has developed several projects and has had the opportunity to lead and participate in innovation missions to Amsterdam, New York, San Francisco, and Hong Kong. Murillo Albanese is an expert in strategic foresight and trend research at several institutes across the world and has had experience in working with innovation projects applied to many sectors, including education, finances, energy, telecommunications, health, among others. A perfect example of digital transformation impacting all the sectors. So to know you better, I have a little short question for each of you. Bruna, as Innovation Director, what do you find most fascinating and most challenging in your profession?
Hello, Elena. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thank you. Well, as Innovation Director, I think facing the challenge that the world is now facing right now with a lot of changings, I think the most challenging thinking that we are facing right now is the continuously customer changing, right? So the customer are even more excited to new things, even more in touch with new technologies, with new brands, with new realities. So I think this kind of different between new people around, new brands around, new technologies around, and the world is keeping changing so fast. I think this is the most challenge that we have been facing right now, just because we need to deal with everything at the same time. And also inside in our works here, we need to help our clients, right? To face the same challenge, to keep changing, to keep growing their business, to keep getting to know better the customer, getting to know better their final clients. And I think this is the most challenging thing that we are facing today.
Yeah, you have to be the guides on something that you also don't know how it's going to turn out, probably.
Yes. Yes.
Murillo, so this is the first time that I'm talking to a future design leader. So I want to ask you, what is that? And how would you describe your professional job activity?
This is a good question. Basically, the futures designer are professionals that explore futures perspectives, future scenarios. And then we explore in these scenarios and the future scenarios based on trends that we observe today. We explore risks and opportunities for the businesses. And then based on these risks and opportunities, we design business plans to avoid such risks and also get opportunities, explore those opportunities that we identified. So somehow we do this traveling the time to see what may happen in the future. We actually do not predict the future, but we actually envision possibilities of future to get the business prepared for those futures, starting from today.
Sounds like a sci-fi movie.
Yes, we have a little bit of a sci-fi in our profession as well. We do a lot.
That's great. I'm excited to hear what you have to tell about our newsrooms and about our industry. So we're excited to start listening to your presentation.
Okay, so I think I will do just a quick introduction about our company before we jump in our presentation here, just for you guys to know. Well, MJV, it's a consultancy, a global consultancy where we work with design and technology to help business to find better solutions, to help business to solve their business problems, right? So nowadays, we do have 10 offices around the globe, here in the US, in Atlanta, but we have been traveling around. Also, we do have offices in Europe and in Latin America. Currently with more than 1,300 employees, and we are celebrating 25 years in business this year. And here, just a glimpse of the broad range of services that we are involved with. So depends on the project, depend on the challenge that we have. We can combine more than one. So for example, we are able to provide services around business strategy and innovation, and also discuss everything that is connected to the future design and future thinking here, technology and data, design and experience when we are talking about digital transformation and user and UI experience, agile and cultural transformation, and more recently, maybe 3 or 4 years from now, we have been working with sustainability and the ESG transformation. So this is just to give you guys a glimpse of our company and what kind of work we do. Here we do have some clients. We are able to provide services for a different range of segments. So from insurance companies, finance sector, retail, and some others, just to give you an example here. And this is our agenda today. We are planning to cover in the next minutes, in the next hour, those topics here. So Murilo will cover from the top trends, changing how news is consumed, until how the news of the future can innovate for today's consumers. So I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you, guys. So I will take from here to start walking through this presentation. So I will start with the top trends changing how news is consumed. So this is basically a handpicked behaviors that are changing regarding how people consume news, okay? So the first one that I'd like to highlight is the decline in the news consumption. And this decline in the news consumption driven by anxiety. And this anxiety specifically influenced by the pandemic, continuous broadcast, and the bad news that came within this time, that had put some people away from this news. So basically, is people feeling overwhelmed with bad news, overwhelmed with information, and they are trying to isolate a little bit from the source of news, and specifically bad news. There is still a term that is doom scrolling that really tries to translate what that means. So this activity of spend a lot of time looking at your phone or at your computer, reading bad or negative news stories, and how this really drives anxiety on readers, and it isolates them from searching for news. We have data that support us to understand and see this. For example, we had research that tells us that the overall time in the internet is down by 30% after the record usage during the COVID lockdown. So we had a peak during the COVID, and now we have this decrease in time spent online. At the same time, we had a research that was carried on with with about 300 media outlet leaders worldwide, and 58% of them affirmed that they are reporting a failing or static online traffic from 2021 to 2022. So here we see that even in the online realm, that is this space for consuming news that many people use, not only the physical, we have this decrease in the traffic within this new media outlets websites. At the same time, we see as a movement of influencing the behavior of news consumption is the fall in the press confidence. And I believe that is common not only for US, but for Brazil and many countries around the world. That is influenced by these frequent attacks towards media outlets, journalists in polarized societies. And we have news specifically in US that support us in seeing this. For example, a research from Gallup and Knight tells us that only 26% of Americans have a favorable opinion of the news media, while 53% hold an unfavorable view. So this data supports us on seeing this. And we have this chart in the right here that is very interesting, talking about the polarization in societies. And this chart from Edelman Trust Barometer tells us what society are the less polarized to the most polarized. In the most polarized, we have Colombia, US, South Africa, Spain, Sweden, and Argentina. And one thing that is interesting here, that one of the 4 topics that they analyze to measure how polarized a society is battle for truth. So when we have political actors or business actors or whatever who is building narratives and is building stories and selling them as truth from both of sides, this polarization actually increases. So this is and it's pretty interesting because this battle for truth has everything to do with the news consumption, with the search from information. And one thing that is driven by this fall in press confidence is another behavior that we observed, that is this autonomous user. So people are looking for information by themselves and looking for basically what they want to see, if we could put this way. So we have news consumers looking for news in their way, either in search engines or social media. They are looking for topics and looking for information that somehow relates with their worldviews somehow. And this has really driven, for example, this data here, this is very interesting, that tells us that people in US prefer, in the last 2 years, prefer the search engines and the social media to look for information. Not exactly prefer, but has increased the number of people using search engines and social media to look for information. And they are using less news website and apps. So they are, and it makes the case for us to understand how people are looking for information by themselves at somehow. And when we talk about how we can innovate and how we can bring a new perspective for these consumers looking for news in social media, for example, we have new platforms that supports us in understanding such cases. One of the example is Post, that is this new media platform that supports us on reach these autonomous users. So basically, Post is a journalism-focused platform where you have like a free subscription that you read some articles with this free subscription, and also a premium subscription. And with this premium subscription, you have access to premium publishers. So we have, for example, Reuters here in this as a premium publisher in this platform. And then to each article that you read, you spend some cents with reading this article. So you pay for the news that you want in a social media platform, in a social media format. And this is very interesting because it drives people to consume like in a social media way, and also monetizing the platform. And one thing that is interesting specifically about this social media as well, it is that they bring this feeling, this opportunity of hear from experts, ask questions, and share your opinion. So they try to create a space where people search for the news by themselves, but also where they can share information, share their thoughts in a welcome space. But not everyone wants to pay to read news. And this is an important question, and it's an important point as well. And here we talk about this paywall controversy, if we can say this way, but is with the increased inflation, pressuring prices, and unlimited online information, readers are not exactly opting to pay to access news. So this is something that I believe that you have already feeling for some time, and we have data that also supports this view. So another research from Gallup and Knight tells us actually ask in the survey if the people have ever donate money to a news organization or pay to access news, such for paying to a subscription on article or buy a new magazine. And the great majority, 72% of them, said that they have never paid to access news. In the other side, if we ask them if in the future they would be willing to pay for news, another majority also say that they are not willing to pay for news. So 56% they mentioned they will not pay to read news. And in the same research, readers also mentioned that they believe the best way for media outlets, for media companies to be funded is by advertising. So we have all this information and all these layers of how people believe the funding and the access to news would happen. Great. After this hand-picked changes in behavior, I'd like to go and talk a little bit about, to go in deeper and talk a little about of threats and opportunities for media in the digital landscapes. And we have brought a glimpse of how artificial intelligence are actually relating and influence the threats and opportunities for media in the future. The first movement that I would like to highlight here is how autocracy threatens freedom of expression. I believe that is something, it is very related to the present, to the fall in the press confidence that we've seen earlier. But here talks specifically about the growth of autocratic governments and how their use of technology amplify the scope of media censorship. And here, the AI, the artificial intelligence, and their role in the world, that is like a hot topic that have been discussed for a while, specifically this year. We see how the AI can be used to legally monitor citizens, public communications, independent journalists, and really strengthening the digital authoritarianism and the censorship. And we have a data from a research from the University of Gutenberg that points us that about 72% of the world's population, about 6 billion of people, live in some kind of autocracy now. So even if this is electoral autocracy or a fully autocratic government, but somehow people are living in this, more people are living in these countries, in countries ruled by autocracies. If we compare, for example, with 10 years ago, we see an increase of 46%. So it really warns us and bringing this point of view on how autocracy and artificial intelligence and new technologies, specifically artificial intelligence that we talk here with their possibility of illegally monitor citizens, can both create a threat to freedom of expression, a greater threat for freedom of expression. At the same time, we see this rush of misinformation. And at some point, we can talk not only about misinformation, but about disinformation as well, right? So not only from fake information that is spread deliberately, that is the disinformation, but fake information that is also spread without the intent to do some harm, that is this misinformation. But we can see like the rush of fake news being spread all over the world very quickly. And we have seen recently in the last weeks, the pictures from Donald Trump being arrested, and also the Pope wearing this this fluffy coat that really, and many people actually believe those were reals and share this information, share this pic. Even, for example, yesterday I saw someone resharing the pic from the Pope, even currently, even today. So we see how this fake news, with specifically those images that were created with artificial intelligence tools to create images, how they can be so close to reality and how they can be so plausible at the same time that they spread very quickly. And we have a data that supports us in understand this. I study from MIT tells us that I study with MIT and Twitter tells us that false news stories are 70% more likely to be retweeted than true stories are. So actually, the chance of a fake news spread is wider, and we have also the artificial intelligence being used, as we see here, to create the fake news, that to create the synthetic media, the synthetic image, but also being used to spread this news. For example, being used to manipulate and to manage fake profiles in Twitter and other social media, and spreading very quickly those informations. So technology to create and to spread.
And Murilo, if you may, I think this is going to be one of the biggest challenges that we need to face right now, just because it's going to be not out of control, because we already have seen a lot of discussions around the AI and around those tools. But I mean, how can we will ensure that we are providing accuracy and a real information that is not fake, that is not something that is, how we will prove that is not fake? How we will prove that this is not something that is made with AI tools or made with the worst of the intentions? So I think this is going to be one of the biggest challenge that we need to face right now and also in the future.
Yes, you're right, Bruna. And what we feel now in this case shows us, and it is that we are the regulation of AI and these guardrails that you mentioned that put the limits are still lagging behind compared to the technology speed, right? So we have noticed this, and we have this point that this is the time to have this difficult conversation, as you mentioned, Bruna, that we need to have these conversations on how to assure that we can differentiate what is a fake synthetic media from a real article or a real image, and etc. And we have a recent case for this that was that open letter from people from business world, from specialists in AI, and from historians, from many people around the world, many important people around the world, claiming to pose these giant AI experiments. So this was a letter that was signed, for example, by Elon Musk, by other AI specialists, that they actually claim for companies, for example, as OpenAI, that is behind the ChatGPT, the so-called ChatGPT, and behind the GPT-4, to stop the tests with those big platforms, with those big AI models. And they claim this for us to get a time to develop and implement safety protocols on advanced AI, and design and develop what can be audited and how to oversee the use of AI. We can have critics and regarding what is behind the scenes regarding this open letter. So what is the intent, for example, from big figures like Elon Musk. But one thing that I believe is important that really relates with what Bruna mentioned, it is this letter brought the discussion of we need to regulate AI and this needs to be faster than we are doing. So it brought this discussion to public and somehow made people reflect on it. So I believe this is important from this point of view. And we have, for example, some countries and some institutions already working on it. For example, Europe. European Union is working in a legal framework to regulate artificial intelligence. So it is a very comprehensive legal framework to regulate the use of artificial intelligence, how it goes to the market. And this is like one of those movements that we have not seen regarding how comprehensive this legal framework is. We have not seen like this as a very aligned movement in other parts of the world, as we have seen with this act, with the AI Act, that must be launched during this year yet. But if we talk about bad things regarding AI, we also can talk about good things and how can AI help journalism and even help fighting the disinformation, the misinformation. And here we talk about human and machine. So we talk about how human intelligence and machine intelligence can work together to fight disinformation. When we talk about the role of AI in fighting for disinformation, we talk about this technology working with content analysis. So these algorithms can check for the words in an article, in a text, how they are positioning, what is the connotation from these words, to understand if there is some kind, for example, of hate speech behind this piece of text. And somehow the algorithms can reverse engineering, manipulating images and video to understand and to check if they are deepfakes. And an interesting case that shows us how it works is the Factual. The Factual is a company and startup that was recently bought by Yahoo, and they rate articles based on four topics, on 4 pillars, to understand if they are being informative or if they have some kind of misinformation or some kind of bias behind this. So this is an algorithm that analyzes the quality of the site, the quality of the media's outlet, website, the expertise of the author, the quality and diversity of the sources, and the tone of writing. So based on these 4 topics, the artificial intelligence can give a grade for this article if they are more or less informative. And this is an interesting website. I don't know if you have already the chance to access this, but you can access, and they compare, even for example, if a news, they compare how a news is being communicated by several media websites. So they compare how if they are, for example, if they have a left or right bias, or a right or left inclination. So they can understand this based on these 4 topics. And if in one side we say about the machine intelligence, we need to say also about the human intelligence. And here we talk about enhancing the human critical thinking as an essential tool to together with the machine intelligence fight the misinformation. And we talk about that this education of the masses, and that AI won't be successful alone. So this is important, and even and I think this is a great point. Even when we ask other questions regarding the role of artificial intelligence, the artificial intelligence works better when humans work with it. So this is the point here that we'd like to bring here. And the NewsGuard is an interesting case as well. The NewsGuard is a platform that is based on humans, on journalists that also investigate a news, investigates an article and gives a grade for this article, the NewsGuard, to understand if there is some kind of misinformation, the same way as de facto works, but with journalists behind it. And the NewsGuard has established a partnership with the American Federation of Teachers. It was by the end of last year, to offer the NewsGuard, to offer this tool that can be accessible, for example, through an extension in your web browser, to offer this to the educators and the students, and also at some point at their families as well, with the free access to NewsGuard, to understand and to investigate, to improve the quality of the news, and also to stimulate the critical thinking as a way to stimulate the critical thinking regarding the news consumption, to identify what is fake, what is disinformation. And talking about opportunities as well here, not so much about artificial intelligence, but it also it's important to highlight this movement that we have seen of putting the consumer at the center in the news industry. So that same research with media outlet leaders tells us that these leaders are exploring audio and video formats as their big bet in how to communicate and how to distribute the news. So we have here in the left a chart that tells us where publishers will be putting more resources this year, more resources in 2022, and podcasts and digital audio, newsletters and digital video were the main destinies of funding for these industry leaders. And we see also here in right how consumers use some of social media currently to take information. And it says something interesting. For example, we see Twitter and Facebook with a higher percent of people looking for mainstream news outlets and mainstream journalists if we compare to TikTok, for example. We have 31% in Twitter, 28% in Facebook, and 14% on TikTok. So we do not have people on TikTok that is basically a video platform looking for mainstream news outlets and mainstream journalists. And this can be seen as opportunity because we have in this platform in majority Gen Zers, so Generation Zs and millennials as well, that are really using this platform. And they actually, and this is important because they make part of what we can highlight as the digital super users. These digital super users, they are basically also Gen Zs and millennials, are those super users that do everything online. They are always online. They are in the majority brand advocates, highly attuned to new products and services, and extremely comfortable in being online and sharing information online. And these digital super users are raising the bar on how news is created and distributed, on how news, for example, on how news can be communicated and distributed by video. So they rising the bar on how this can be done, and introduce new formats, and introduce and pushes for new formats as well. We have here in the right corner one thing that is interesting about putting the consumer at the center and talking about this digital users. There is this user needs model of the readers, and here we bring an official user needs model of the New York Times. So this user needs model basically mentions what consumers, what readers want from the news, from the news they read. For example, we have people that want the information to make their life easier, or to enrich their life, connect with ideas, make their think, catch them up. So they are jobs to be done, let's say this way, with all the information they consume. And also the media outlets can use this job to be done, what the consumers want by the end, to understand and to create content and to distribute content in the best way it's possible. So for example, when we talk about Make Me Think, here in this example from the New York Times, they are talking about writing articles and writing information and providing information that is thoughtful. When we talk about connecting with ideas, they mention about providing content with the interpretation of facts. So each one of the needs of the readers are at somehow being met by this framework. And this is very interesting. And it's a way to put the consumer at the center as well.
It is, let me just ask you one question, Leo. It's very interesting. I didn't know about this user needs model, but probably New York Times, if they have this knowledge, they are also using this model in order for every job, as you said, every job by the information to be done, to have a different duration or maybe have a different format so they know if the article should be longer, if the reportage should be longer or smaller, right?
Yes, exactly. It also determines if the length of content, how it is communicated and distributed, etc. This is, I would say, like an unofficial user need from the New York Times that actually we have seen this. We have captured this in a research in a report from Reuters and the Oxford University as well, where this is the point. To each job to be done, they mention they actually think in a way to provide the best information in the best way it's possible.
Murilo, before you move forward, I just want to mention also that this kind of discussion also opens space for us to discuss about the generational changes, right? Because here we are talking about new technologies, everything 100% digital, all the AI, how they are mixing and matching with our lives. But also, we know that we need to discuss how to deal with the difference between the generations, right? And how to also be inclusive and avoid creating an even more significant generational gap between people that is, well, elderly people, and then how we can also include them in this kind of discussion and also try to avoid this kind of, this is what it is, all digital, all new technologies, you need to adapt. I don't think so. I think these discussions raise attention to this kind of generational changes and how can we be more inclusive, also taking into account that we do have a lot of different challenges to face right now. I just want to point that out.
Great. Yes, I think it's a good point, right? Not everything, the digital does not work for everyone, right? Great. And now I would like to explore a little bit how the news of the future can innovate for today's consumers. And now we bring some cases from the future, some cases on how media outlets, small or big media outlets, are using emergent technologies in their daily life. So we have seen with this case from the future that those companies are leveraging the technology to take innovation to the daily life. And this is an interesting case for a digital twin use it to communicate breaking news. This is a digital twin of an anchor from the cable channel in South Korea, MBN, and they use this anchor, this digital anchor, only to broadcast breaking news. So this is a AI-powered version, AI digital-powered version of the anchor that was trained with the anchor tone of voice, with the anchor way of talking, and they replicate this in the digital world. One thing that was very interesting is that a lot of people were surprised with this. Some people liked it, some others did not like it, and many of them asked if the anchor, if Kim Jo-ha would lose her job. And the cable channel mentioned, no, she will not lose her job. Her digital version, her digital twin will be used only for breaking news. She'll keep with her activities regularly, not only for breaking news, that her digital version would come on to play. We have seen how this use of now technologies can push beyond the current business model, can push the media outlets to find new ways of monetize, of generate resources. We have James that is called like a digital butler. The James is basically a solution based on AI, so AI powered as well, that came from the Times of London with Twipe. Both of those companies partner to create to increase the number of subscribers, creating personalized newsletters, personalized content, personalized web pages. So this algorithm understand what is the main topics that the reader has interest, and create the ideal content for each one of those subscribers. And one thing that is important here, and now pushing the current business model, is that they started to offer this as a product to other companies. So here the Times of London not only is a publisher at this point, but also offers a product that is based in this AI software. And all these technologies and innovations can create a win-win game with the consumers. So a game where everyone actually wins. And this is a case for Snowball. We have seen the controversy of the paywall, and that not exactly everyone wants to pay to access news. And we have this solution for Snowball, that is a newsletter about finance, a French newsletter that created 3 paywall possibilities, 3 levels of paywall. And in the last level of paywall, the most expensive, you have advantages beyond accessing other contents and additional contents. You also have the opportunity to have some discount on tools of financial control and on tools that are used and mentioned in the newsletter, and that are used in the news, in the finance literacy, and etc. So it is a way for you to get like an additional perk from subscribing the most expensive paywall. We also have media outlets, and we have journalists exploring the digital world, and here specifically the metaverse, to create engaging stories. And this is very interesting as a case from the Center for Collaborative Investigative Journalism, that they created a world, they created a space in the metaverse where they publish some of their stories. So you can enter in the metaverse and access the story and get in touch with the information and understand what they are producing. instead of going to a website and to read like a long page, or even like a physical published channel, or as a journal, and etc. And by the end, these emerging technologies let the readers be in the editorial board. And this is a very interesting case related to blockchain and Web3. That is 20 Minutes. 20 Minutes is a magazine that was funded by the purchase of NFTs. So everyone that holds an NFT, every NFT holder has the opportunity to participate and choose what articles and what speakers would be in the magazine. So it is a way for bring the consumer together with the editorial board and let them participate, let the readers participate in the definitions of the magazine, of what is being created, of the content and this being created. And this was this version of the 20 Minutes. All the NFTs were sold out in like a few hours with not a small price, almost 300 euros. But it also points out how what could be those other ways to engage with the consumer? What could be those other ways to bring the consumer together to build the content and to engage with the company, with the news media outlets. And here to wrap up and to give like to leave a provocation, I would like to bring this question. After everything we have gone through, how do you envision the newsroom of the future? Which of these opportunities, which one of these threats really can influence the newsroom of the future? What do you feel the most? Which one of those innovations can be applied in the daily life? So it is a way to start a conversation and reflect about how to envision the newsroom of the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Murillo. Thank you very much, Murillo, again. Can you, before we start the conversation again, and before you stop with the screen sharing, can you show us your contacts for both of us, how we can reach you?
Sure.
Yes, you have showed us immense content, immense, very, very useful content that even I didn't know. So yes, let's start with the questions. Here are your emails, and thank you very much for both these. It was, as I said, a very useful presentation. Thank you very much. I was very impressed by a lot of the things, and I could say that the most, I don't know if shocking, but a little like, I was very impressed with the Korean news anchor that will appear every time there are breaking news. I think we have to understand, and the channel has to understand, if that's really useful, if that will not freak out their own users. And I again also want to go back to what Bruna said, that the generational division can be there, and it's very important to also be aware of different parts of the audience, and be aware that not everybody will have the same resources. And that just makes me think of how some months back, or maybe a year back, all the phones were going to go from 4G to 5G, and I was using a phone that was not able to have any 5G, so my phone was not even receiving any calls. and that made me think, like, what if I didn't have the money to buy a new phone right now? Or what if older people don't know how to do that? What is going to be, what is going to happen? So I wanted to maybe ask some questions to you too, for both of you. Maybe Bruna, starting. Can we say that from the consumer point of view nowadays, the news cannot be without digital tools? Because I mean, a large amount of people don't really access the traditional media anymore, radio, television maybe, So if it wasn't for technological advances, a lot of people would not know what news are happening around.
Yeah, I think, I mean, when we are talking about the difference between the generations, I think we are all moving forward to adapt and to adopt digital tools in our daily lives. I think you are right when you're talking about, for example, wow, I don't have the phone where I can access the 5G or a more recently connection offering, but how people will consume, how people will get in touch with the news, how people will do it without access to digital tools. We don't have, well, we do have newspapers yet, but we don't have as much as we had in the
We're
past.
not so dependent on
It's not something that it's easier than it was before. So I'm really concerned about how people will consume without digital access. And you are right, we are not talking about only generational changes, but we are also talking about resources. We are talking about economics and how some people can access and some people cannot access the information that is outside there. But I think this is also, if we stop and reflect about the past, we have been facing different transformations, and we have been facing this digital transformation for a while right now. So how can we also thinking about in an inclusive way to make it possible to everyone to access real and good information that is not fake, but also not only throughout digital tools. I don't actually have this this answer right now, but I have been reading and some similar situations, right? So, for example, for those who don't have internet access, for those who cannot access websites and social medias, how they are consuming information, how they are getting in touch with their world right now. They are using public spaces. They are using different technologies that is still available. They are counting with nonprofit organizations. They are counting with different companies, institutions. So I think we need to put together those different perspectives, not only the consumer, but also the companies, but also the institutions, but also the government, to thinking about how can we provide that to everybody, not only using or counting with the digital tools that we have available or with the paid solutions. Murilo showed us a lot of different business models, right? Some of them are paid solutions. So how can I do it if I don't have the money? How can I do it if I don't have internet access? How can I do it if I'm not super digital? Those things, I think they are all over the table right now because we don't have the answers right now. I don't know, Murilo, if you have something to add here.
I think you use that perfectly. I think there is this space of, I think the digital discussion and the new technology, they kind of absorbs all the discussion at some point, and for some decision makers. But we also have to take a look, and maybe we do not have the full answers on how to do this for the other side. So I think
that's why we need the critical thinking, as you said. The opportunity
Exactly.
for critical thinking for the education. And I want to comment a little bit on that paid solution that both Bruna just reminded us now, and that you had in your presentation, Maria. One thing is a lot of people will not be able or will not be available to pay anything. They do not want to. Another thing is that if there are a lot of media places where you can get information. So many subscribers could be very loyal to one of the pages, and they want to read one other article from another page, but they won't be paying for that particular article. So there is the competition. It raises also the question of competition, like how do we get the readers from our competition? how do we get the readers to come to our website instead of going to the other website, because there are people who do not want to pay for reading, but there are also the ones who are going to pay. How do they choose where they want to pay? So that's another a little bit of a problem for the newspapers, I would say. Do you have any knowledge in that area?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can also discuss the value proposition, right? Because this paid models, this paid business model or subscriptions is going to be, I don't want to say it's going to be, well, can be compared the streamings that we have right now with different TV streaming channels, right? So they are targeting some customers, they are targeting some kind of profiles of people. So different people are paying for different TV streamings right now, channels. So I think it is the same here. What is the value proposition and who is the target? Because yeah, I'm thinking that maybe the majority will not pay for the subscriptions to have like a personalized information content, but some of them will. And if we do have already this kind of service being offered, that is because we do have people to consume, right? Mm-hmm. But I think there is a good thing to discuss is about how to raise attention, how to get the attention of the public, how to get the attention of the audience. And this is the fight of the century, right? Because the brands are fighting for attention, the social media are fighting for the customer attention. Now also the broadcasters and also the media channels are fighting for customer attention. So this is something that is super interesting to discuss around the value proposition, what we are offering to who and why we are offering that. What is the value that we are creating here and how we can reach out to those customers and also be more customer centric. How can we better understand their needs? How can we better understand what they want? And then we can create our campaigns, our services, our products around that. And I think this is what is happening right now. And it's going to be like a scale situation because it's going to be like, now they are trying to start this subscriptions, but then we probably will have high personalized solutions coming to where the consumer can also be part of it. But I don't know. I think that this is going to be a fight for attention, and it is going to be for everybody, all the brands, all the subscription channels, all the TV and streaming channels, because this is what we are offering right now. A lot of information, super acceleration in the world. So we are fighting for attention here. We are fighting for your 2 seconds of attention to see something, engage with that. So yeah, this is also interesting to discuss.
Just to complement here, and I think everyone is fighting attention with everyone. It's like the media outlets are fighting attention with also the streaming, and the social media platform is like a cross fighting for this attention, right? And I think that relating a little bit what we see in the presentation, we have gone through that, put the consumer at the center and talk about the user needs, understand their what they want with the news they are reading. This I believe all this make part of improving the value proposition, of refining the value proposition, as Bruna said.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of things that come to mind when you all say these things. The first one I wanted to say is it was very useful to know about autonomous users and knowing that everybody can really choose what they're going to read. And everybody then wants to have an opinion, wants to comment, and then they want to see their comment being the first one being pinned by the news media company. And inside the social media news companies are also fighting with those influencers, with every user on Instagram is scrolling and scrolling, and every user can accumulate like thousands of people they are following and pages they are following. Not everything will come to their page initially. So I also wanted to go back to that concept of super user, which is at that point I thought if that meant something as an influencer, but probably it doesn't, right?
Yes, exactly. Not necessarily an influencer, not necessarily someone that is creating content by themselves, but someone that is really that really pays attention to influencers, that really plays not as those super users really pay attention to influencers, to the content being generated, and are online a great part of the time, but not necessarily they are influencers by themselves, but they have a look at the influencers.
People can feel good that if they are not influencers, they're still super users, super people. Another thing I wanted to ask was about these value propositions that everybody's trying to put forward. So we can see a lot of companies and news websites building new things and then following each other. So I wanted to ask you both as strategizers, how viable it is for one company to follow what others are doing just because they are doing it. Is it good to modernize in that way without really understanding if that's what it works for your business?
I think that, well, depends on what you want, what is the companies and the business goal, right? Some of the companies, they want to be the disruptors, they want to be the early adopters, they want to show to the world that they are the first one to use, the first one to show, the first one to engage with that technology or engage with that solution. But some of the companies, they are up to follow. Okay, so I already saw that it's working, it's good, and I think that now I'm prepared to follow the trend or follow the solution, or even copy and paste and try to change a little bit to target their own audience. So I think that depends on the business goals that you have. I think, of course, that in the world that is always changing and changing so fast, the ones there are the first ones or the early adopters or the ones that are launching new things, they are probably being more they are able to influence more the market or influence more what people are consuming or what people want, right? But I think that it's not about what is the bad side of copy or follow someone else. I think depends on the business that you are, what do you want as a business? What is your goal as a business? Because we do know some companies that this is their this is how they position themselves. They don't want to risk first. They don't want to be the first one to try something or to show to the world that they are using something. They want to follow the market, and I think that's fine. I think the question is, what do you want as a business? What is your goal as a business? And what is the place that you want to be? Because sometimes we just don't want to take the risk. And in order to experience a lot of the things that we are talking about here, you need to be open. You need to be open to the risk that comes with these new technologies or with these new services that is around us.
Just to complement, I believe that bandwagoning does not come without risk as well, because I think that beyond this first question that Bruna mentioned of what the business wants, I believe that we need to understand what the consumer wants from the business as well. Because at some point, bandwagoning just will be as risky as trying something all new at some point. So I believe this is the second question of looking at the consumer, understand what they want is important as well.
We are getting a little bit out of time, but out of this, I wanted to ask two last questions after the presentation that again was with a lot of content that some of us do not dominate, even journalists who work in the industry. what do you think are the most special skills or most important skills for the journalist to learn right now, besides the good practices of being a good journalist? And the second question for both of you also is, when people get excited about trying new ideas, but then they get discouraged because they do not have the finances or they do not have the possibilities or the resources, what do you tell them? Maybe starting with Maria.
Great. So when we think about the skills of a journalist, I would say not specifically skills, a skill specifically, but I think, for example, openness to understand on how to work with emerging technologies, with the changings they're coming. I think, for example, we have talked a lot about artificial intelligence during our presentation. This is a very hot topic. But how journalists can imagine to understand, to try. I think openness is a good, could be like a good skill in the sense to how can they understand these technologies and experiment with them in actually in a safe zone to grab value from this relation, to take value from this relationship with new technology. So I think that this openness from this space and to understand, it's a good first step.
Mm-hmm.
And
telling about if you find in your job, you find people who want to implement something but are a little bit discouraged because they don't know how to, what do you tell them?
This is a good question. You think to understand, to look for help and try to understand where you want to be, what do you want to achieve. I think there are additional questions beyond I want to implement and test something that need to be checked before moving on. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the way to move and to give it this next step.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think so. I think you can, well, start small, choose one idea, understand how can you start small and test it out and prototype with a small audience, with small and less resource. Sometimes we don't have to spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resource to try it out and experiment on one idea. Thinking about what is the minimum that you need to do to try to test this concept, this idea that you have, to try to experiment and collect feedback. Talk with your family, talk with your colleagues, talk with your co-workers. Start small, test it out, prototype, and then you can improve, then you can make it bigger. And I think the last one that I want to say is keep being people, because only humans can bring the human aspects around everything that we have been discussing here. So keep bringing the human aspects, keep being like people, because machines can help us, can leverage and can potentialize our work, but they cannot substitute us. So how can we bring and make sure that we are bringing and we are keeping the human aspects around us and making that more important than all the technologies around and everything that we have.
Mm-hmm. Those are true words of wisdom. We really need that. A lot of people really need that security that you're not doing, that safety, that even if the machines can do all of this, you are still human and you're not going to be replaced. And to answer to the question that Maria launched at the end of the presentation, how do you imagine the newsroom of the future? I imagine them to be modern, but I would like them to be not modern only in the infrastructure way, but also just reminding us journalists that we have to get out of the office. So not as good that we want to sit on our chairs for 10 hours, because journalists have to go out and see that. And newsrooms should really invest in the human experience, should really invest in the humans, like not only in the machines, but really how the journalists can behave to that, how the journalists can feel that they still own everything. They still have the power. So I think that is one of the questions when it comes to newsrooms. Not everybody is willing to invest in their workers, but that's something that will be very important. So I hope this is a message of hope that we'll keep for the end of the discussion. I wanted to ask if you have any other words to finalize, any other thoughts to finalize this discussion.
No, thank you. I want to thank you guys for this moment here. I think we do have a lot of things to discuss. Those bring us a lot of food for thoughts. And I hope we can engage and keep going this discussion. Then again, keeping what matters. We are humans here, and we need to be involved and be exchanging information and be in touch and building our network and bringing our human perspectives. I think that's it.
Thank you, Bruna. Murilo?
I'd like to thank you all. Thank you, Elena, Bruna, and everyone. And I think that this is the starting point to a conversation, right? So, and this presentation, this discussion is the starting point to a conversation regarding the newsroom of the future, the human perspective. So I invite you to keep this conversation, to keep this engagement.
Thank you very much. This is also what the Association for Press wants to do, is to bring people back to the table, to the discussion, be it virtual, be it live, keep talking to the specialists. And again, this was a very useful session. Thank you very much for both of you, and we'll keep in contact.